Good evening, America. It's a sad Wednesday across this country. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, here with my amazing co-host, Amanda Head. Our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers are with the families who lost loved ones and have wounded ones in the hospital tonight in Minneapolis, where a deranged gunman opened fire on a group of Catholic children as they were celebrating Mass and worshiping before they started their school year. Amanda, this is becoming too common a thing. A deranged gunman, apparently a man biologically who identified as a woman because he used the name Robin, had a vendetta against President Trump, which he put on his ammunition. And he picks the most innocent of innocent and defenseless victims. I don't even know what we can say to offer comfort, but it is a shocking day.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you obviously don't want to subscribe this to anything other than evil and malice and mental illness oftentimes, but you have this convergence of ideologies. You mentioned the Donald Trump thing, and then on one of those it reportedly says Hamzalah, and then something with respect to Israel, and you have this these ideologies of hate, John, and ideologies that revolve around an utter hatred and desire for destruction of someone or something else.
Listen, we built a whole cottage business in politics on the left to make everybody hate Donald Trump the last 10 years and make fake scandals and hate anyone that's associated with Donald Trump or anything that has the values that look like Donald Trump. Right. And again, we have to dig through this one to know if this falls into that category. But there are a lot of young people that have fallen prey to the anger and hatred of this era. And it's something that we got to find a very quick panacea. We can't keep burying young children, carrying them out of their classroom or out of their church in body bags. It's just not right. We're too good a country for this.
And we're too good of a country, by the way, to have this denialism about transgenderism. Yeah, for as long as we all can remember, and even before that, you had a medical industry that coalesced and agreed upon the idea that transgenderism was a mental issue, and it was not something to be celebrated and affirmed and have a name changed by, you know, the mom or whatever the case may be. Yep. And now we have people who are affirming this, who are encouraging it even sometimes. And when you have something like that, when you feel that everything about your body doesn't align with who you are at your core, and that you are encouraged to explore that, it is obviously going to cause some cognitive dissonance at the very least, and sometimes destruction.
Well, let's hope we get to the bottom of this, know exactly what happened, and try to learn from it and not let this repetitive cycle continue on. We're going to talk a lot about this in the second block of the show. We got some great guests, but today we're going to start off with some news that was the big news before this terrible tragedy. President Trump's new media and technology group, which runs Truth Social, made a major power play in the crypto world. We were lucky to get an exclusive interview with the CEO of the Trump and Media Technology Group, also our good friend of the show, the man who unraveled Russiagate, Devin Nunes. We talked to him a little while ago. Take a watch. All right, joining us now, a man who's played such an outsized role in exposing the abuses and the criminality that really occurred in the Russiagate and weaponization of government. Today, he plays an important role in helping recraft the intelligence community so that it has the confidence of the American people again. He's the chairman of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, the man who unraveled Russiagate, and today he is CEO of one of the most exciting technology companies in the world, the Trump Media and Technology Group, which gave us Truth Social, and as you're about to find out, a whole lot more. He is our good friend and former Congressman, Devin Nunes. Sir, good to have you back on the show.
John and Matt, it's always great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
What a juggernaut you and the president have built in this company. This week we had a big story. In fact, it was our trending story all day yesterday. You made a gigantic move into digital currencies, the future of Americans' finances. Tell us a little bit about it and what it does for this great company.
Well, you know, it's interesting, dating back on my intelligence work for some 2 decades in the Congress, crypto technology has been around a long time. And I think there was a slow adoption by many people around the world and others to get into crypto because, they didn't understand it. Would it be there? What would last? And I think we're really at just the beginning of all of this. And so what really changed, I think, is from what I can tell, is that if you were in the third world and you had bongo bucks that was a fiat currency, and I'm just being facetious there by saying that, but you would prefer to go into Bitcoin and then turn that somehow into a US dollar. So Bitcoin has maintained now for a long time. And then you have stable coins, which are basically tied to the dollar, which people are taking and then using those across platforms efficiently. And then you have utility tokens. So the common ones that are known are Ethereum, Solana. But we decided at Truth Social that we wanted to work with a company that had a very good token that had been around a while, and that could work ultimately on the Truth Social and Truth Streaming platform, which, by the way, many people are probably watching this show right now on our Truth Plus streaming. And we decided that, who do we go with that has size, has a great brand, has a wallet, has their own exchange, and has a utility token that is in existence. And that's how we came to Crypto.com with their CRO token. We're in the process of adopting that on our platform. It's been used on their platform for many years. It has around a $6 billion approximately market cap. So we wanted to go with someone that we could attach our name to, work with to grow this out in the long run. We think this is going to be, obviously an American company, the treasury company that we set up. So this is a joint venture between both Crypto.com and Trump Media Group, forming a new company. Has to get approved by the SEC, but that company will be a treasury. All it will hold is CRO, Cronos. And a lot of people are familiar with the Bitcoin treasury that's out there that Michael Saylor put together. And these have been popular this year. And I think that every major token is going to have one of these treasuries. So we put our name, our brand, everything behind it, because we know that to back Cronos up, to make sure it's there for forever, the CRO token, we need to work with companies like Crypto.com with tokens that the American people can trust. And we needed to build our own treasury company, and that's what we're doing with Crypto.com. So it's a combination deal, John. It's really the separate treasury company that, by the way, Crypto.com is putting $1 billion worth of Cronos, which today that Cronos has already climbed 30-40% over what, when we announced this deal. And then at the same time, Crypto.com actually made a rather modest investment compared to the $1 billion that they're putting in our joint treasury company. But we're acquiring $105 million of Cronos in DJT, in the Trump Media and Technology Group. And that Cronos, they're actually going to take shares of our company. So Crypto.com will be an investor in our company, and that's the ticker symbol DJT. So the goal here is American company, a real utility token that has real uses that we're going to be able to prove out over the coming years that this will be a token that's here to stay. And not to say that it's been around a long time, but we want to take it to the next level. That's the goal.
Yeah. And, I think that there's something innately appealing about cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology, for people who care about freedom and anonymity. But I think for a lot of folks, Eric Trump included, the debanking movement is what really opened their eyes to what is happening in our banking system and how we can find alternatives. Talk to us about that movement, especially when it comes to people who are already enjoying Truth Social.
Yeah, well, we actually said that when we did one of the largest Bitcoin treasuries. So we put about $2 billion of Bitcoin on our books just a couple months ago. And we told people we were going to do more. We've been talking about that we're going to do a utility token. But when we did that, and that's what led to us adopting CRO, the Cronos token, working with Crypto.com. But when we made that Bitcoin treasury play, where we put $2 billion of Bitcoin on our balance sheet, what that really did is solidified the company for the long run. So if this ever goes back to where there's debanking problems like that, which, by the way, we were debanked and I say we, I'm not talking about just the Trump family and others. I'm talking about we DJT, the Trump Media Technology Group. We were harassed by the banks. We had to, still today, this won't surprise you, but there's still many firms around this country who won't work with us. So I think it's going to take more Cracker Barrels, more Bud Lights. And we're going to slowly expose these people when we think the timing is right, people that have refused to work with DJT, a publicly traded company. But putting that $2 billion of Bitcoin was essentially freeing ourselves of ever needing to use banks again. I mean, not that we won't, we will use banks. And then this utility token's the same thing. And the great thing about utility tokens are the way the blockchain is set up, you can stake that coin. So it's very easy to get a return. So the more the coin is used, the more that you stake, you actually get a return that comes back to the blockchain. And that's one of the reasons why we like this technology. But for sure, this debanking issue is one that we hope is not here to stay, but we're prepared for it at TMTG DJT and also at the new treasury company with Crypto.com.
I think when the utility token world burst onto the scene, it was with Binance, which started in China. It spun off a little bit, but this feels like the first true red, white, and blue utility exchange in America, utility coin exchange in America. Is that the play here for you to be, the true red, white, and blue utility token of America?
Yeah, well, I think there's no question in that, right? And that's part of this. And I don't fault anybody in this whole crypto world because it's a little bit of the Wild West, but there's been some problems with it. I think the Republican Party and Trump and others have tried to fix it. You had the corrupt Biden SEC that hurt our company so badly, kept us for many, many years for over 2 years from becoming a public company. They actually made some of the problems even worse. Now that President Trump has come in, you have sensible people. He's basically embracing this new technology because, as we can see, you can't trust the Fed. And that's what really led to cryptos in the first place. Going back to the beginning of this, remember I said bongo bucks and people that are sitting in countries that have these useless fiat currencies. Look at the nonsense that's just happened with the Fed. So look, and what we're really going to do here, John and Amanda, is we're actually testing it now. People that are on our testing system have seen. We're going to have reward points. So the more you watch John Solomon and Amanda on Truth Plus, you'll collect gems. Those will go to your Truth Social account. The more you use Truth Social, you collect these gems. And then over time, we're going to make it so that those gems can either be exchanged into the Crypto.com wallet for Kronos, or we might have other opportunities. We're going to actually take this step by step, kind of the crawl, walk, run. We're going to look at, obviously, Kronos is our first option, but we might come up with other ideas that we can use these reward points for over time. And so it'll reward our users for using both Truth Social and watching Truth Plus. That's the goal. I actually have it on my phone right now. It's working. We keep working with it slowly. I'm making sure that it's all working right, but it's going to be nice, seamless. And that was part of the reason why we wanted to work with Crypto.com too, because not only did we want to have a company that has basically more regulatory licenses around the world, but also has one of the best wallets in the world. So we wanted to be able to send the people from Truth Social and Truth Plus a safe place to go and use these reward points. And look, if they want to actually use the wallet, learn more about crypto or these other products. I mean, ultimately there's going to be, and actually Crypto.com already has where you can buy stocks on there. So this is really going to become the future of finance because we're out to prove that an American company, two names you can trust in both Trump Media and Crypto.com with a token that's been in use. And we're going to prove that you can have this American-made company that can operate efficiently and prove out that you can move money and other things safely across a blockchain.
Devin, we're lucky. We're going to have you back on tomorrow night for our big special on weaponization and how we solve it. But for tonight, I want to thank you for joining us and congrats on all of the progress you've made at this great company. We're going to get you on again real soon.
Thank you.
All right, what a great conversation. Folks, go check this out. This is one of the most exciting developments in the crypto world in the last few months. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more on that tragic shooting at the Catholic school in Minneapolis. The FBI says they are investigating as an act of terrorism. And guess what? The shooter, yes, identified as a female, though he was born a male. We'll get into that in just a second after these messages. Hey folks, in today's world of misinformation and political spin, it's more important than ever to support organizations that put truth and values first. That's why I support and belong to AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. They're the conservative alternative to AARP, and they're working to preserve faith, family, and freedom, three things that matter to all of us. AMAC members get valuable benefits, discounts on healthcare, travel, and health insurance, exclusive online resources, and a subscription to AMAC's beautiful magazine, one of the best reads out there for an informed patriot like you and I. And all of this is available for as little as $1.20 a month with a 5-year membership. That's what I have, a 5-year membership. Join me. Join the movement today. Visit amac.us/justnews and help AMAC protect America's future.
Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. A horrific tragedy unfolded in Minneapolis earlier today. At least 2 children were killed and 17 others injured after gunfire erupted during Mass at a Catholic school. So families who gathered for worship and prayer were instead met with unthinkable violence. Investigators are still working to piece together what happened, but the community is reeling. Parents, students, and parishioners are all shaken by the loss of innocent lives in a place that's meant to be safe and sacred. So joining us now for a roundtable discussion, a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and an expert on the subject of mass shootings, Amy Swearer. Also joining us is the CEO of 40 Days for Life to give us a view from the faith-based perspective, Sean Carney. Sean and Amy, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amy, I'll start with you. You know, every time this happens, it seems like there is a rush to blame guns, and then we just kind of seem to sidestep any of these other contributing factors. It seems like it's the same thing this time, right?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's an easy out, I think, for a lot of people to blame the specific type of firearm that's being used, as though any of these lives would have been saved had they just used a slightly different looking type of firearm. And it's really an absurd argument. What we're often dealing with, and I think this is unfortunately, again, the case here, is an individual who was clearly unhinged, who was, you almost have to assume, so showing signs of being unhinged. And we have to look at the who, not the what. And I think, again, unfortunately here you have an individual who was mentally ill and clearly evidencing signs of being a danger to themselves or others long before this. And we have to look at intervention, early intervention for these specific individuals to stop this. It's not about the type of firearm. I think that's really undershooting what we could be doing in terms of prevention here. It is about taking all firearms out of the hands of people who are dangerous and getting them help. And we miss the point when we fixate on the type of firearm that they're using.
Yeah, that's a great point. Sean, I, as a younger reporter, covered the Virginia Tech massacre, and there was this incredible report that came out afterwards, a bipartisan report, that this was so shocking, but mental health is a big issue. We got to do it in, we're now 15, 16, 18 years after that horrible tragedy, and we still seem to have a struggle dealing with young people with mental illness and keeping them from getting to the point of acting out with such lethality like we saw today. How do we keep failing on this?
Well, we excuse it, and then we move on. As Amanda hinted at, we say it's really bad, and then we just move on. We won't identify it. And, you know, we've had school shootings, unfortunately. We've had shootings at church, unfortunately. We've never had a combo like this. Shooting a child worshiping God in Holy Mass, I don't know if there's anything worse. And the shooter, of course, that came out is transgender, is extremely mentally ill. If you think that you're somebody that you're not, you're mentally ill. And the worst thing we can do as a society is either neglect them, which is unfair to them, or worse, affirm them, which is extremely unfair. And we've got to quit this affirmation. And I do think that the transgender community, they're losing politically, they're losing culturally. We've seen that just in the last 18 months. And they're mad, and they do have a history of violence. We saw that in the Nashville shooter. We see it in the Minneapolis shooter. And we have to address this head on, that this is mental illness. We can't live in a fantasy world anymore. And this is a tragic and devastating reminder of that.
Yeah. Sean, I want to stay with you. It's an interesting conversation, especially with your background, because I know that you, of all people, deal a lot with hatred on the other side of the aisle. When you are protecting unborn life, you are obviously going to face some of these radical type people. When it comes to this personality trait, this inclination to be anti-religion, anti-God, anti-life, what do you see as far as similarities between this guy and people that you faced?
That's a great question, because I will say honestly, for the majority of the pro-life versus pro-choice movement, the pro-choice movement wasn't militant until about 2016, 2017, and they got more violent. They stopped arguing, I guess, and started pounding the table. And we have definitely seen that with the homosexual movement. We definitely see it with the transgender movement, that the left has gotten more violent and more dangerous. That's just a fact, and we've seen it on the street, as you've pointed out. And now we see it in these tragedies where you get a manifesto. This person, it's reported that they had a manifesto. I have not seen the 11-minute video. The Nashville shooter had a manifesto, and it's, you reject me, therefore I hate the church, I hate God, I hate you, you're judgmental, and I'm going to shoot you. And we can't have that. And we have to treat these people, we have to address the issues head on and not live in a fantasy world where we affirm the mental illness. If you affirm the mental illness, it's going to come back and it's going to hurt you. And now it's not only hurting us, it's hurting children. And we've got to get out of this madness.
Yeah. Amy, I want to turn to specifically the state of Minnesota. It has a governor that was a Democratic nominee for vice president, just a few million votes short of potentially being the #2 person in the country. They dealt with this issue of school security a few years ago, but Catholic churches were, I think, on the outside of the decision making. Tell us what you know about that.
Yeah, so there's been some reports that have come out that have reminded us that just a couple of years ago, Minnesota undertook, to answer this call of when is enough, and they not only implemented a number of gun control measures, none of which seem to have been effective here. And again, that's not necessarily unsurprising given what we know about the way that these gun control measures aren't actually designed to take guns out of the hands of people who are actually dangerous. They're designed to punish ordinary law-abiding gun owners. But one of the things that we've since learned is that Catholic schools in particular, several years ago, reached out in an organized effort to secure funding, I think something like $50 million of funding for school security. And this happened again, this call for additional funding after the Nashville shooting at Covenant Christian School a couple of years ago as well. And that funding, while the money was there, was never secured for these private schools, specifically because they were private schools. The state did not, it appears, it did not want to fund security for non-public schools. And when we look at what happened here, one of the things that we know actually stops these mass shooters is, one, what is the quickness of the response, the swiftness of the armed response, but also the ability to detect these threats in advance and to deal with them and to have secure facilities. And so we know those are things that matter in instances like this, and that funding, again, unfortunately, was not secured for these schools. And we can only look back now and ask, what difference might that have made? And I think the answer, and unfortunately, is that it might have made a much bigger difference than some of the things that are often thrown around in the aftermath of these sorts of events about taking away certain types of firearms. It was about security at the time, and that funding again was lost because of who these schools are, because of their faith-based tradition, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Sean, so often when this happens, you have certain people who very venomously reject thoughts and prayers. And when you look at the faith movement as a whole, whether it's charismatic, Southern Baptist, Catholicism, doesn't matter. It seems to me that when they say that, it is a fundamental misunderstanding of what prayer and faith is all about. But maybe it's not. Maybe that's not what it is. Maybe what it is just a desire to redirect efforts towards gun control. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that number one, that's sad to reject thoughts and prayers. That's what we're supposed to do. We prayed after 9/11. We pray after every tragedy, and prayer works. But if you're cynical and you throw that out and you say, I want real tangible things, great. Then we need to have that conversation. But the answer isn't to take guns away from everybody. That won't work. The bad people will still get guns. The real issue is to deal with the mental illness. And for that mayor to come out and say this has nothing to do with the trans community, it does according to the trans shooter because they had a manifesto. It did according to the Nashville trans shooter because they had a manifesto. It matters to them, so it needs to matter to us. And we need to have that real conversation that if you are a boy and you identify as a girl, you're mentally off. And you are going to get very angry very quickly at those who don't affirm you in every decision or behavioral act you ever make in your life. And that is a recipe for violence, particularly in a climate when their movement, it's not having the success that the homosexual movement had. There's a lot of division within that movement. And the transgender ideology is being rejected. It was certainly rejected politically in a landslide last fall. And I just think that we're going to have to address this head on. You want to reject prayers and thoughts? That's fine. But you also need to have the guts to have a real conversation about the motivations behind these shootings.
Amy, before we let you go, we've been boiling children for a long time in social media and education systems, anti-Semitism, conservatives are domestic terrorists, clearly an effort to demonize Donald Trump all the time. And you see in the inscriptions that this deranged shooter put on their weaponry and other places before carrying out this act, the similar sentiments, kill Trump, 6 million Jews weren't enough, McVeigh, where's your God now? How responsible is this sort of cultural machinery that have put these children in a boiled hot world where anger and mental illness can get triggered pretty quickly?
But it's incredibly important. The more that we come to understand about these sorts of mass public shooters, the more that we understand they're driven by a grievance complex. I mean, Sean really hits the nail on the head here, that it's driven by a sense of not just despair or depression, it is grievance. And that sort of cultural rhetoric that we see flying around all the time in the mainstream media, on social media, we are inundated with it. And it's not only just unhealthy as a society, but it helps facilitate and foster this very sort of grievance complex that we know is at the heart of these mass shootings, that helps drive individuals to this type of violence. And it also helps foster some of that contagion effect that we see, unfortunately, after these mass shootings. And so that's unfortunate, but it's also quite a difficult thing to deal with because we are so inundated with it, and we have a freedom of speech that often conflicts with our ability to necessarily tell people, well, you have to be nice to each other online. But it is a very real social issue that lies, in many respects, at the heart of this problem.
Yeah, normalizing those issues is not helpful. And there are a number of parents out there tonight whose hearts have been ripped out of their chest as a result of this. Amy Swearer and Sean Carney, thank you both for joining us tonight. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, coming up, we're going to talk to someone trying to fix the crime problem in Ohio, just like Trump is trying to do here in Washington, D.C. So we're going to talk to him next.
Welcome back, America. For a second, we're going to turn to another component of the difficult day we had, the international component, the effort by our enemies to target our children, our young people. It's another part of the dynamic that leads to the sort of things we saw today. It also had a big role in destabilizing some of our cities over the last several years. Joining us now, a man who knows a lot about this. He's a former CIA case officer, an Air Force veteran, and also now running for Congress from the great state of Ohio, Eric Conroy. Eric, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, John and Amanda.
All right, my friend. So you spent a lot of time in the security establishment, and I know over the last few years we're starting to educate people. Hey, there was an effort on TikTok to poison your children's minds, or obviously an effort to poison your children's blood with the fentanyl that China and others push into this country. When you see this tragedy today, a very disturbed young person, how much should we start looking at our foreign enemies for some of the unrest in our young people's minds?
Well, firstly, my thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and families of this tragic day. I went to Catholic school myself and have sat in pews like that as a young kid, and to see that peaceful scene tragically disturbed is haunting. And to your point, in terms of looking to our foreign adversaries, this is absolutely one of those cases where we should be looking harder into it. And I think, in a conventional sense, people think of war and conflict in terms of shooting and missiles and active violence. But really, in the modern day, unconventional conflict can take many forms, and that includes flooding our borders with fentanyl and putting out radical leftist ideology in our media, including TikTok. And I think what we saw today was someone who was mentally disturbed and affected by those leftist woke ideologies that are being pushed across our media every day.
Yeah, it's disgusting to see, and you know, all of the messaging around this. Honestly, it always looks the same way. You've got the left who is rushing for gun control, saying we're sick of thoughts and prayers, and then you know, folks on the right who are typically saying, like we are, let's wait till the facts come out. There are some things that we know already. How do you blend those two together and finally get to a place, because we haven't seen it yet. We really haven't seen it after a shooting, where we can finally come to the center and say, all right, let's have a real conversation about these ideologies that this person subscribed to and all of the factors that ultimately led to this?
Well, I think part of it is dealing with reality and how the world actually operates. And the left and liberals want to operate and rationalize things in a world that doesn't exist. And conservatives operate in a world of reality. And what we saw here, I saw a New York Post article discussing the shooter's journal, which had anti-Semitic, anti-Catholic, and radical leftist ideology detailed in it. And it was also written in Cyrillic, which is the Russian alphabet as well. So there are a lot of angles to explore here and to investigate, including not only the hate crime angle, but also any international entanglements. It's very bizarre that it was written in, or part of his journal was written in Russian as well.
Yeah. Again, those signs that maybe there is some foreign influence or targeting of our young people. So I want to turn to something that probably does have a little bit of foreign influence too, but clearly has a lot of domestic capabilities, and that is the unsettling of our cities, the sort of crime waves that were unleashed by these don't imprison, don't punish, bad guy mentality of the liberals. Your state gave us perhaps one of the most extraordinary moments recently, the Cincinnati beating that was captured on videotape. I know it'll be a big part of your campaign because you're a law and order guy, but tell us a little bit about the left's vulnerability in the destabilization of our cities and all these crime waves that only blue cities seem to be enduring.
Yeah, of course. And what we've seen, I think, over the last 2 decades especially, is just a crumbling of our cities, and that's due to the ineptitude and cowardly leadership of the Democratic apparatus that runs them. We've seen crime rates soar, and we've seen people just generally get fed up with the Democratic running of cities. We saw a horrific brawl here in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, and you know, it's not only a public safety issue for a medium-sized city like Cincinnati, but it's also an economic development issue. And we have these incidents happen, they set us back economically for decades. It harms our ability to recruit talented individuals and companies to the area. And I have to point out that my opponent, Greg Landsman, had a very pitiful interview after that brawl here. And his comments on what he was doing at the federal level to help curb some of these incidents was that he was working with companies like Honda and Kia to make their cars less stealable. There's nothing about leadership. There's nothing about personal accountability. There's nothing about getting law enforcement the resources and manpower that they need, but instead emphasizing a mentality that shunned any kind of accountability whatsoever. And we need to get back to the basics when it comes to public safety and operating our cities. And President Trump is doing a terrific job with his deployment of the National Guard in select cities to get things back on track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Eric, I constantly hear this refrain from the left, and especially lately with the cleanup of D.C., but the refrain is that, oh, well, there are red states that have crime problems too. And of course, they cite places like Birmingham, Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, Kansas City, Missouri, Chattanooga, Tennessee, these types of places that do have crime issues. But there's a common denominator between city leadership, isn't there?
There is. And what we've seen blue cities just run absolutely rampant with crime, and especially violent crime. And, you know, during my tours abroad with the Air Force and the CIA, I lived in 2 very socially conservative countries in Japan and Poland. And because they're socially conservative and run the right way in their beautiful cities, they never had these issues. And our murder rates and our violent crime rates are simply way too high. And we need to get back to the conservative operation of cities and a very common sense approach to doing so. To limit some of these senseless crimes and limit the violence as well.
Yeah. Eric, before we let you go, what's the best way if people want to support what you're doing, get to know more about you? How do they stay in touch with you?
Yeah, please go to ericconroy.com to learn a little bit more about me. I served 7 years in the Air Force and 7 years in the CIA, and we are looking to bring back common sense leadership to Southwest Ohio. My opponent, Greg Landsman, is a radical leftist who supported woke ideology, which we saw have dire consequences today. So we're bringing back that leadership for a change here in Southwest Ohio, and we'd be happy to have your support. And please learn more at ericconroy.com. And thanks for your time today.
Great to have you on, Eric, and a big thank you for your service to your country in both of those great roles, and now maybe in Congress. So we'll be tracking you closely. Good to have you on, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks. Yeah, absolutely. After the break, there's a big change in the global banking system that could change how your money moves and how much privacy you have when you spend it. We'll explain that next with our good friend Shannon Davis right after these messages. Hey, folks, if you're a homeowner like me, you need to listen to this. In today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is their target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and boom, just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. And that's when the problems begin, because they start taking out loans using your equity and even sell your property. And you're not even going to find out it's happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice months later. That's a nightmare, right? So when's the last time you checked on your home title? Well, if you're like me, the answer is never, right? You need to do something about that right now. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code JTN at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes that might happen, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's a good deal. Find out why I trust Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code JTN. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code JTN.
Welcome back, everybody. There are some major changes in our global financial system coming. It's called ISO 20022. Don't worry if you have no idea what it is, because I don't either. It's a good thing we have our next guest on. And starting this November, the way that money moves around the world is going to change forever. It is the biggest shift in banking since the 1970s. It affects every bank, every transaction, and possibly your retirement. So here to explain why this matters for everyday Americans is Shannon Davis, the CEO of American Alternative Assets. Shannon, great to see you.
Great to see you guys.
What on earth? I hate to sound like a cave woman, but what is ISO 20022?
Yeah, it's what we've been talking about. This is the last Lego piece to central bank digital currency. We've been talking about it the last few weeks. The Genius Act talked about it as well. This is what was passed in that law. It's not just about cleaner data or faster payments. The system is the foundation to digital currency. You know, real-time tracking, restrictions on how you use your money. You know, right now the financial institutions are transferring over to this system. They can gather more data on every single transaction. This means that the government can see not only how you're spending, but where you're spending. This is, in essence, replacing what is called the SWIFT program. This is how globally money transfers. You heard when we put sanctions on Russia, we took away the ability for them to transfer money through the SWIFT program. This is replacing it. It's a digital highway. There's over 200 that use the highway in terms of global functionality. And now it's only going to be 7 that are approved. Not even crypto is approved for this. So big changes in November.
Wow. All right. Yep. And I think obviously the push towards a central bank digital currency is the ultimate goal, but there's a larger strategy here, sort of more online, I think maybe with the Chinese social credit score. Is that what these big government banker hounds want to get out of this? Is the ability to not only constrain and know what we're doing, but to control how we do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been about controlling the narrative. And one of the biggest things that come from controlling the narrative is money and where that money goes. You look at the stock market, a certain narrative comes out, job markets are strong, payroll strong, market takes off. We're going to lower rates. Market takes off. So it really is about the narrative that, is the main focus. Social credit scores. Yeah, that's definitely a key factor because it's about where we can put things in front of people's eyeballs that can spend money. So definitely.
Yeah. I remember I walked in on my husband watching an episode of Black Mirror, and it was about the social credit scores and things like that, and it gave me heart palpitations. I had to walk right out. I want to ask you, because this administration in particular seems aggressively anti-globalization. We see it in the health sector with the refusal to no longer coordinate with the World Health Organization, and it seems like we are also seeing it on the currency side of things, because President Trump claims that he is against central bank digital currencies. If this administration can stave this off for 4 years while this effort is happening right now for this ISO thing, does that mean it's done, or are they going to continue fighting for this?
Well, it's not about continue fighting for it. It's been in play for a long time. I know, Trump talks about, not crypto, no CBDCs or central bank digital currency, but read the Genesis or the Genius Act, read that. You have to read that, and you'll see within his own act, this is just another piece to that, the ISO 222 of using central bank digital currency. We need other countries, currency. We need them to bring it in and buy our stuff. I know that he's been pushing that, but it's written in his own law that he just removed. It's always been something that has been in the works. It's now going to be implemented come November. This is happening, and so it's time to prepare. If you think about currency changing, it has in a global setting for a long time. The franc changed to euros. The lire, which was the Italian currency, changed to euros.
Right.
When the franc switched over to euro, they only got 70 cents on the dollar. This isn't anything new. This is a global shift, and it's going to continue to happen no matter who's in office.
Yeah, so very important. Before we let you go, you've been so great to educate our viewers. We got this great partnership with American Alternative Assets. You created one of my favorite sites, John Likes Gold. I love saying that all day, johnlikesgold.com. People are really listening and learning. They're listening and learning. And one of the things that I think they were struck by, as I was talking about this the other day on my show, a lot of people are shocked to find out that the digital yuan in China has an expiration date for some of its assets. Describe the data. There's a use it or lose it part of the digital yuan in China, which could be a model for other countries, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when you talk about that, that country, it's all about control. It's all about leverage. It's all about urgency. When there's an expiration date and the economy struggling financially, what does that make you do? It makes you spend it and infuse it into the economy to pump the numbers back up. No difference with central bank digital currency. They have the ability to set negative interest rates to the currency, which in turn means if you keep holding on to it, you'll lose value. So you'll spend it. Quantitative easing or quantitative tightening is just another form of it. And we're coming up with very creative ways for that to happen. It all, again, comes back to what we've been talking about, $37 trillion in debt. We can't stop printing money. We need to stop. But in order to continue to do that, they're coming up in much more creative ways to do it. And so the monetary system has changed before. It's going to change again. It's changed globally in many other countries. We just explained a couple of scenarios with Italy and France going to the euro. Like, this happens all the time. We print too much money, and that's not anyone's real fault, but the system that's been built. So, go to johnloves.com, download the latest guide that we've made available for your viewers, which is Gold's Next Move. Learn how to protect a portion of your retirement or savings, whether it's in an IRA, 401k, TSP, or in your bank account. Like, there's ways to leverage and hedge against certain things going on out there with your dollar bills in gold and silver and platinum. And we can educate you on that. So, read the guide, reach out to us, and get educated.
Must read. Must read. It's
Absolutely.
good stuff.
Fantastic. CEO of American Alternative Assets, Shannon Davis. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to our viewers, if you want to learn more about American Alternative Assets, go to johnlikesgold.com or call 855-GOLD-340 to get your guide now. That's 855-465-3340 or johnlikesgold.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. A few more topics to hit before we head out for the night. On Truth Social, President Trump's favorite platform, he stated that Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Leader John Thune are working with him on a comprehensive crime bill. He further stated that it is what the country needs. John, I would say that's true in certain spots across this country, especially blue cities.
The big, beautiful crime bill. That's what's coming. Yeah, listen, he's walking the Democrats in a trap, like you said the other day. And the Democrats have to, in order to survive their primaries, embrace the anti-police, let everybody live and get killed scenario that they're in. And by the time that's rolled up, Trump will have put an entire different plan on the planet, and Republicans run on it.
Yeah.
And he'll have a case study of the difference in Washington in 10 weeks. This is shaping up to be, by the way, I think this turns out to be an important issue in the Virginia and New Jersey governor's races now, but I think those are test beds for 26.
Well, when I asked President Trump yesterday about the blue city mayors, he said that he thought even more than transgender issues, even more than some of these other 80-20, 90-10, he says 93-7. But even more than those issues, he feels like crime is what it is going to be. And John, I just think back to what President Trump has been able to do over the course of his life in politics. We've always been used to this cycle where leading into the primaries, a Democrat candidate runs to the left and then he runs to the center, and a Republican candidate runs to the right at the primaries and then runs to the center. President Trump has managed to identify the issues that leave Democrats on the left. It leaves an indelible mark on their campaign, and they can't escape it. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Last candidate that I ever saw successfully do that was Ronald Reagan, and maybe not to the degree that Trump is making these inroads into middle America and even into blue America. 26 will be a real test to see if this is a lasting long-term movement, if he can defy the traditional mid-year election curse, and you know something bigger is going on. And I think early signs are, listen, I talked to a lot of Democrats. They are panicked. You know how many Democrats I can't wait for 26. It's the mid-year election. Luck's on our side. They are panicked. They feel like they are going over a cliff. There's no paddle to stop the canoe from going there.
Was it Harry Enton on CNN yesterday or this morning was freaking out. He was like, Democrats' reputation is absolutely at the bottom of the barrel, and Republicans have a huge chance to keep their majority just next year. Isn't that crazy?
The number one rule of politics: if your opposition is killing itself, just stay out of the way.
Is that Sun Tzu, the art of war? If your enemy's making a mistake, never interrupt him. All right. President Trump has also increased tariffs on Indian goods to 50% because of India importing Russian oil, which of course is helping fund their war efforts with Ukraine. So President Trump is really, really trying to stick a fork in this conflict.
Did you notice who didn't object to this today? Democrats.
Yeah.
You know why? They got their Russia thing. He's got him on this one. He had no pushback today on either side of this. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. It does remind us, though, of the topic we've been talking about with pharmaceuticals. In addition to China, we got a lot of pharmaceuticals in India. So that's another reason. We're going to have another great show on that coming up. But, well, it's an important time to get in-house generics going again. Make American generics great again. MAGA with a double G and a double A.
Yeah, and I think with China, the issues are intentional. I think that, with India, it's quality control, but it's issues nonetheless when it comes to us relying on other countries.
You're not going to pick on my acronym?
What?
Make America generics great again.
MAGA.
G,
Oh,
double A.
yeah.
MAGA,
Oh,
two Gs
I
and
love
two
it.
A's.
I thought you were trying
Sorry.
to say a bad word.
I'm going to stop being funny. Sorry.
No, I was just daft. That's all.
We better hit it off. I'm getting in trouble.
Listen, we're moving a 20,000 square foot office. We're both a little,
we go.
deflated. All right, everybody, we're out of time tonight, and it's probably a good thing. So tune in tomorrow night, 6 p.m.